Hey guys, this is Justin at the Survivor Review, and today we're talking about Episode 10, the season finale of Season 11 of The X-Files, titled My Struggle 4. Alright, this is the episode I've been the most curious about and dreading the most all season long. Just with what's been going on with Gillian Anderson saying she's leaving the show, and the fact that it's a Chris Carter mythology episode, we know how those turn out. I was just like, what's going to happen? Is this going to be a complete mess like the rest of them? Is it going to give us good closure? Is it going to end off the story well enough to where if this is the final episode, like, we'll be satisfied? Like, I don't know. I was so dreading this because I was just like, I have a feeling this is going to be a disappointment. And for the most part, I was right. I'm kind of conflicted on this episode. There's good elements in this episode, and it's easily the best out of the My Struggle storyline. It's the best episode out of all of those, which isn't saying much. But there's some interesting things and good ideas. Just like those previous My Struggle episodes, there's good ideas and stuff that if handled was better could have been great. But what we got just didn't quite make it, basically. I mean, this episode isn't as much of an exposition dump as the previous ones have been, which is good. I mean, except for the opening scene, because the pre-title scene is just William narrating his backstory. And it's interesting information because stuff we never got to see, and I want to find out more about William. But it did feel kind of clunky because it was 5 minutes worth of him just narrating about his life. But there was interesting stuff in there. I like him talking about the stuff he did as a kid and how he really just felt like a bad guy and that kind of stuff. I thought that was interesting, and I like that. So I don't know. That was interesting, but could have been handled better. It could have been handled better if we had more time with the William character instead of just one episode in the middle of the season, So then also in his vision, he has a vision of Smoking Man pulling a gun on Mulder and pulling the trigger, and then it cuts the credits. And then the episode kicks off, and the first scene we have is Skinner going to talk to Kirsch. And I like that, like I said in the last episode, that, Kirsch was in. I thought it was cool that they brought him back, and I like actually seeing him interact with Skinner this time. I like that. But then he says the one thing that's supposed to sound very dramatic and threatening, but it's not, because he says, "I'm closing down the X-Files." And I'm like, okay, sure? How many times has that happened on this show? That's literally how the first season ended. I love how they play that off as such a dramatic moment. It's supposed to have weight to it, but I just started laughing when he said that. I'm like, sure, okay. A lot of good that's gonna do. And then he also says, I want Mulder and Scully off the FBI. I want their badges and stuff. So Skinner leaves, and he ends up running into Scully. And he's all what the hell's going on? What are you guys doing? You're viewing the stuff on the news and stuff? What's going on? And Scully reveals that Mulder didn't reveal all that stuff. She did. And she used Mulder as, a cover. And Mulder is on the trail of their son, on the trail of William. And then, for some reason, decides to flash back, 15 hours earlier to explain how we get to that point. For no good reason. Just they were trying too hard to have stakes and make you be ooh, how did it lead to this moment that Kirsch wants to fire Mulder and Scully? But it's I don't know, I felt there was no point in doing that. But either way, we cut back and Mulder and Scully are in their house together, and they get a call from Monica Reyes saying that, William is about to board this plane and you need to catch him before it's too late. And using her psychic connection with William, Scully figures out that she's lying and William isn't there, but Mulder wants to go just to be sure and check everything out. He goes, of course, William's not there, but he runs into that other cigarette smoking man-esque character from the first episode of the season, who's part of the syndicate, I think, or part of some sort of government conspiracy thing. Confronts him in a ridiculous action scene. That was just kind of weird. Mulder kills people it's nothing in this episode. He's is blindly shooting people, and if handled better, that could come into play in the story. He's, on a mission to find his son. That's his main goal, and he's not letting anything get in the way. But they don't play it with any dramatic weight. They just kind of play it as he's, being a badass and killing the bad guys. And that's kind of another instance of, if handled better, it could have worked, but now it just kind of comes off as weird. Him flipping around and shooting the bad guys, and he confronts that head of the syndicate type of character and kills him. And I'm like, okay, great. Like, it's that character's second episode and he's dead. And I'm like, alright. Like, I don't care, really, at all. And after a lot of driving around and asking people questions, Mulder finally finds William and comes face to face with him. And that was a really good moment. Like, David Duchovny played it off very well. Just this kind of, like, awestruck look he has of, like, finally seeing his son and, like, hugging him and everything. Like, it was a great moment. And I liked that part a lot. Oh, the rest of the scene was okay. It was kind of clunky between the two. Like, it wasn't the greatest, but, like, their introduction I thought was great. And, like, David Duchovny was great in that scene. And then we get to probably the best scene in the entire episode, where the other syndicate people, the Barbara Hershey character, and the rest of her men, they find where William is, they break into the motel room, like, they grab Mulder, they grab William, and using his abilities, William freaking blows up everybody, just explodes them into bloody chunks and everything, and that was insane. Like, I like that moment a lot. Kind of shows you what kind of mindset I have, but whatever. I thought that moment was great and probably the most badass thing in the entire episode. And of course, you know, he blows up the Barbara Hershey character. Again, I don't care, because I had 2 episodes with her, and I still don't even know what their goal was, or who they really were, or what they were doing. So, them dying is like, whatever, okay. Like, there's closure to some things in this episode, and not with others. And this is kind of one of the things where the closure didn't really work because it wasn't earned. And that's kind of the problem, is there's a lot of, like, closure stuff in this episode that isn't really earned because we haven't had time to really develop it or really, you know, feel, like, emotion towards it. And that, like, syndicate group of characters, I don't really know exactly what their motivation was, and, like, I don't care, because we saw them once at the beginning of the season, and that's it. And then they pop back in here now, and then they're dead. It just feels like Chris Carter tried to tie up loose ends and get rid of the storyline as much as he can so he can introduce a new one down the line. You know, because it's just like, oh yeah, that's syndicate characters. Okay, they're dead now, we can move on. And I don't care. I really don't care. And another thing that's weird about this episode is pretty much the same thing with the other My Struggle episodes, aside from the season 10 premiere, is that Mulder and Scully are separated for the entire episode, basically, until the final scene. And I don't know why Chris Carter likes to do that. In 3 out of the 4 My Struggle episodes, they're separated for the majority of the runtime. And even Scully doesn't really get anything to do with this episode. So if this ends up being Gillian Anderson's last time playing Scully, it's pretty underwhelming. And then we flash forward to the current time with Skinner and Scully in the FBI headquarters. And Skinner's like, you know, screw Kirsch's orders, I'm gonna help you. And so they're off. And they're driving in the car, and this is the scene where Skinner, like, reveals, you know, the truth about William, that, you know, Smoking Man is the father. And, I don't know, it wasn't even handled that well. Like, you don't really get a good reaction, and then all of a sudden, you know, Mulder zooms by in the car, and they go, oh, there's Mulder, we gotta follow him, and they zoom, and then we move on. And it's like, okay, neat. And then everything kind of converges at this, like, dock area, where, like, Skinner and Scully are there, and then Mulder gets there, and then Smoking Man and Reyes get there. It's all kind of like a race against time to get to William. Which, I like that idea. And I like that it's all kind of converging in this one spot. Mulder and Scully are running after William. We get this one really well done scene where Mulder meets up with Scully, they stop, and Mulder's just like, you know, hey, you know, don't worry, stop trying to find William. Like, he doesn't want to be found. Like, he knows you love him and all that stuff. And then, you know, he runs off, and then all of a sudden Mulder runs in behind him, revealing that that was actually William the whole time talking to Scully. And that's a nice moment. I like that moment. I mean, it would have been, like, a lot more emotionally engaging if it actually was William himself and not him disguised as someone else, like he was in the last time he talked to Scully. But it was a nice moment, and I like the line with him saying, you know, he knows that you love him. Like, I'm like, oh, like, that's a good moment. Like, I like that bit. So they're off, and then we get to the scene, Skinner's last scene in the season, where he's, like, right outside his car, and all of a sudden, Reyes and Smoking Man are in the car, like, in front of him. And honestly, for a second there, I was like, ooh, is Skinner gonna die? Because it was kind of, like, building up to that. I'm like, oh, no, I don't want Skinner to die. But what we got was a lot worse and kind of dumb. Because he takes out his gun, and Reyes is all like, you know, screw this. She goes to back up, but Smoking Man's like, no, and he makes her move forward to, like, ram Skinner, and, you know, Skinner's shooting, and for all the fans out there who hated what they did with Reyes these past 2 seasons, this isn't gonna make him happier because Skinner shoots and kills Reyes, like shoots her right in the head. And like I said in the last videos where I talked about Agent Reyes, I never really cared too much for her character, so that doesn't affect me like emotionally that she died. But like to fans of her character, like that's gonna piss off a lot of people that they just shoot her. Like Skinner just shoots her in the fucking face, and that's it. But then, you know, Smoking Man, you know, is going to ram him, and right before the car can hit him, he ducks down, and Skinner hides under the car, and they crash. Two cars crash, and that's it. And then Smoking Man gets out, and, like, leans down, picks up Skinner's gun, and kind of just sees his legs, like, lying under the car, like, not moving. And then he walks away. And that's all we get with Skinner. And I'm like, what? Like, that's... Like, if this is the last episode, that's how we're going to end it with Skinner, just, like, his unconscious body laying under a car. Like, he's not dead, right? I don't think he's dead. I don't think he would be dead, but I don't know. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of crappy. Like, I don't know what they're trying to do. And that's the thing. It's another thing where, execution-wise, if they actually did kill Skinner in that scene, I think it would have worked. I actually think it would have made sense. It would have been effective. Because, you know, you have that whole scene a few episodes back in the episode Kitten, where he's saying how, like, he's loyal to Mulder and Scully and how, you know, like, they helped him, like, fight for his beliefs and he's on their side. And, you know, at the beginning of this episode, he totally disobeys Kirsch's orders to help them find their son. And so, like, this standoff scene between him and Smoking Man, I think would have actually been effective if they did kill him. It all come full circle that he's helping Mulder and Scully with one of the most important, like, things of their life with their son, and those are the characters who helped him fight for what he believed in. You know, I think it would have worked, and if you had that scene of, like, the car ramming at him, he's shooting, you know, kills Reyes, maybe he would wound, like, Smoking Man, like, maybe that could have worked, and then if he got hit and killed, it actually could have worked. I mean, I still would have been bummed because it would be killing off Skinner, but I thought that could have worked. See, and that's another thing that, again, good ideas, but not fully realized, because now we have the awkward, like, oh no, you know, he ducked right in time, but his legs are under there unconscious, and that's all we see of him. Okay, and maybe that's all we ever see of him. And it's like, okay. Like, if this ends up being the last episode of the show, that's kind of a disappointing way for Skinner to go out. Then we get to the final scene of the episode. Mulder is running along the dock trying to find William when the Smoking Man confronts him, pointing the gun at him like in the prologue. Apparently, Smoking Man is willing to shoot him because he does. He shoots Mulder point blank in the head and he falls in the water, and it's revealed that that was actually William in disguise. And then Mulder runs in behind Smoking Man in a moment that's actually pretty satisfying, where he just unloads his gun into Smoking Man, just riddles him with bullets, and then pushes him into the water. And then, you know, he reunites with Scully, and he gets all emotional, because, like, that's our son. Our son is dead. And, okay, so this scene, I got a few things to say about it. One, I love Mulder's reaction, and I loved David Duchovny's performance in that final scene. Thought that was great. And what I like is, like, we've never really seen Mulder react to his son, or we never really get to understand, like, what Mulder's feelings is on William or him having a son in general. It's always Scully is the emotional one. Mulder's always kind of like, it's okay, hun. Like, that's all he really does. So to see him be emotionally distraught over the loss of his kid, I thought was really good. Like, I really liked that moment. And then we get to Scully's reaction, where she just, like, point blank just goes like, we know he never really was our son. He was just an experiment. You know, I was never really his mother. And I'm like, what? Like, what's up with this whole 2-season, like, journey of her trying to find William, trying to find her long-lost son? What's up with the scene in Ghoulie when she thinks William is dead, and she has that whole breakdown scene where she's, like, apologizing for not being there his entire life, and now she's just like, you know what, he was just an experiment. Yeah, I gave birth to him, but, you know, he was not really our kid. And then, you know, you get to the final moments where Scully reveals that she is pregnant with Mulder's kid. And, you know, they have, like, a good little emotional beat, they hug, and the camera pans back, fades out, like, okay, it's done. And then fades in, and William's still alive, he pops up from the water, and that's it. And I'm like, okay. Like, I don't know. Like, concept-wise, I think this is a good place to end off their story. Yeah, they could have reunited with William, and it would have been happy, but that's true. Like, it never would have been the same. It would have been hard to accept that, like, they've been out of his life for so long. It'd be hard for him to accept that. Yeah, I think it's a good ending point. Like, I like, you know, them just kind of hugging it out on the dock as the camera, like, pans away. And I'm like, okay, now they can move on, you know, from William, because he is dead, and they could have their own life, and they can be happy. And, you know, the X-Files is closed. So they don't have to deal with that anymore. They don't have to investigate weird cases anymore. They can just move on. What was up with Smoking Man's plot with the virus? Like, what was he doing with that? Now, is the virus just gone now? Because I guess because Smoking Man's dead, he's not going to unleash it, so I guess we're good. I don't know, like, what was going on with that? Like, that's not really cleared up. Again, the fate of Skinner is not really cleared up. Like, it's weird. It's, like, good closure for Mulder and Scully, but not for anything else. And I don't know if I should just be happy with that, because that's the most important thing, is Mulder and Scully. Do I think this is where the series should end? I don't know. I would see more. I'd be down for more, easily. I'd be down for season 12. Without Julian Anderson, I don't know. I mean, now Chris Carter has a good excuse, though, to write her out and just be like, oh, well, she's home taking care of the baby. Like, it's really easy for him to write out Scully, which I think probably made him happy, because, you know, Chris Carter just wants to continue this thing as much as he can. Which is why I was so conflicted on the final shot of William popping up and still being alive. Like, that just seems like Chris Carter, like, not knowing what he wants to conclude or not, and being like, yeah, William could still be alive, sure. There's that, and there's also the fate of the Smoking Man. Where it's like, yeah, it looks like he died. He got shot a lot. That's a pretty definitive way to kill someone. But then again, he survived a friggin' missile to the face. So it's like, there's no real stakes there. Like, if he gets shot, it's like, okay, he could probably come back because he came back from that. You know, it's like, it's just hard to, like, I don't know, it's hard to be satisfied with that kind of stuff when you know how the show has gone with bringing people back and being as inconclusive as possible. It's so hard to be fully satisfied. But I like the idea of this, and so that's the kind of the conflicting thing. It's like, I like the idea of it, but the execution left a lot to be desired. So am I satisfied or not with this episode? I'd lean more towards not, but I'm not as disappointed as I thought it was going to be. I expect this episode to be a lot worse. So it was better than that. So yeah, that's my struggle for... even if they do continue the show, I hope that's the end of the My Struggle storyline, because Jesus Christ, like, we've had enough of that. So we can just move forward. And this does seem like the conclusion of that storyline, and this was the best episode of that, because most of the episode wasn't an exposition dump. It was actually, like, stuff trying to happen. It just wasn't very exciting or thrilling. Yeah, kind of conflicting thoughts with this episode. Kind of frustrated on some stuff, okay with others. I don't know. It's kind of a mixed bag. Like a typical Chris Carter mythology episode, though not as awful as the other ones have been, definitely. But still one of the weaker episodes. So yeah, that's season 11 of The X-Files. And for the most part, I enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. I mean, a lot more than season 10. But season 10 was kind of hard to really do a whole lot with because it was so short, you know? But this one, like, I'm glad they did it. Despite the messy mythology and all that stuff, I'm glad they did this season, because everything in the middle ranged from solid to great, and I had a blast watching the show week to week. Like, I was never around when the show was originally on, so I was never able to experience, you know, Mulder and Scully on a weekly basis. And now with this season and season 10, I was able to do so. And that was a lot of fun. Like, it made the weeks more exciting. Like, building up to Wednesday, to the new episode of The X-Files. Like, the fact that they gave me that experience makes me happy. So if this ends up being the end, I still got something satisfying out of it. You know, I got the experience of that, but also just seeing new adventures of Mulder and Scully. That, for the most part, were very entertaining. You know, so if this ends up being the end, it's sad, but... you know what, they've had a good run for it, and if there ends up being more, I'm in for more. I'm excited for more. So yeah, that's season 11 of The X-Files, and that's about it for now. And until next time, I'll talk to you guys later.